All right, so let's start by going through some of the due dates that are coming up. We're getting into the last week and a half, so there's a lot of red text. There's some very important things we need to keep in mind. So firstly, there is the final quiz is due this Friday. It's on Canvas, so that's on Dr. Rajamani's Origins of Life lecture. So please complete that. And then on Sunday, September 17th, we need your presenter form. So this is not on Canvas yet. It will be in the next day or two. This is basically just acknowledging that you know how the semifinals are going to go and to tell us who is going to be presenting for your team so we can make a list. And then on Tuesday, September 19th, three things are due, and that is your final set of slides, your fact sheet, and your references. And we've tried to be accommodating with deadline extensions, but unfortunately for this one, we can't accommodate late submissions because the semifinals are 12 hours later. So we need time to put things together and sleep. So we need you guys to try to really get this in on time. Otherwise, we won't be able to have you participate in semifinals, unfortunately, which we would really be sad about. So please, please, please get everything in by Tuesday, September 19th, and do it early even, so that if your network crashes at the last minute, you are still able to submit. On Wednesday, September 20th, we have our semifinals. They are from 11 to 1 Eastern time. And then we have the finals on Saturday, September 23rd, and those will be from 11 to noon Eastern time. And then there will be a few surveys, but those we'll tell you more about later, and those will not be so time sensitive. All right, so here again is a tentative order for semifinals. So find your team number, make sure you can do that time slot. If you are one of the first three groups, keep an eye on your email because I will be reaching out to you to ensure that you are comfortable going so early. We don't want to pressure anyone to go if they're not feeling really ready to be first. So there might be some changing of ordering in the first group just to make sure we have teams that are confident and okay with being early. Otherwise, we have this system in place. If you cannot attend your group session, please email us by Friday, noon Eastern time, and tell us what group you were placed in and which groups you are available for, and we will try to accommodate you. But it is best if you tell us early so that we can really try to find a solution. So here are the logistics. I won't belabor this. We went over this yesterday. But the biggest and most important thing is that at 1 minute and 50 seconds, you need to stop because we have 60 groups to go through in 2 hours. So if you've done the math, that's a bit tight. So yes, when the timer goes off, please finish your sentence and then let the rest of the participants go. Please support each other. We really want this to be a supportive environment where we're all excited to learn astrobiology together. And feel free to communicate in the Discord afterward. And we'll be moving from pitch to pitch. So Jasmine will be helping to do the timekeeping. So please, please, please practice with your team beforehand. We don't have anything next Tuesday, with the hope that you use that time to really practice and nail out technical issues so that we're able to really move smoothly next Wednesday. So with that, I'm really excited for today because we are having an amazing panel with some really accomplished individuals joining us. So I'd like to introduce each of them. So if you can see, the four of them are spotlit. And each one is coming from a really distinct and unique background and offering a lot. And they're going to share their experiences and their story with you and hopefully encourage you to maybe take next steps of your own in astrobiology. So starting with Dr. Nozera Kawaja, he's a planetary scientist working at the Free University in Berlin, Germany. He's involved in a number of missions and leads research projects to design instruments and perform experiments to explore the habitability of extraterrestrial ocean worlds. He's also the founder of the Astrobiology Network of Pakistan to promote astrobiology in Pakistan. The network was founded in 2017 and it runs on a volunteer basis. Since then, the network is promoting astrobiology in Pakistan through in schools, colleges, and universities. So moving over, next we have Priya, who's a microbiologist with a very long and distinguished career at a number of institutions, including the University of Massachusetts, University of Maryland, and currently at the Blue Marble Space Institute of Science. She works together with her husband on Haloarchaea, which are salt-loving polyextremophilic microbes. At Blue Marble, she has launched an education outreach and bioinformatics web suite for their Young Scientist program and for making astromicrobiology and molecular biology manageable and accessible. Moving on, next, we have Skylar Borges, who's a PhD candidate and NSF Graduate Research Fellow in the Department of Astronomy and Planetary Science at Northern Arizona University. Their research focuses on detecting remote and in situ biosignatures from Antarctic microbiome research. They're also passionate about creating access to astrobiology research by forming connections between early career scientists. They formed the stromatolites, which stands for Studying Totally Rad Objects in modern and ancient thermal, oceanic, lithified, and interlayered textures on Earth and Antarctica. International interdisciplinary community-led group whose goal is to create support for early career astrobiologists. And finally, we have Veronika Bogusz, who's a member of the Polish Astrobiology Society in her last year of high school. She's done research at Johns Hopkins, as well as on an international telescope design project. She plans to study biochemistry, origins of life, and the potential of archaea in space in university. She's co-founded Astro Youth, a multidisciplinary group of Polish high school and university students aiming to work in the space industry in the future while pursuing life sciences and other fields in school. So thank you all for joining us and for sharing your time with us. We are really excited to have you. And we will now go to some questions. So to our participants, we have some questions we've arranged. You're also welcome to ask them, and we might some of those later on, but we'll start with some of the questions that the Womanium team came up with. All right, so first, please describe your path through astrobiology and what excites you the most about the field. Dr. Nazer?
Yes, thank you very much, Tess. It's really exciting to be here. And the question, whenever I talk about astrobiology, you can imagine that I got goosebumps. And the reason is that right from the beginning of the education, the one question that was always there was the existence of life on planet Earth. So that was the key question that was always in mind. And of course, when you see the sky, then you wonder that if we are the only one that we are here. So following this question, I started with physics and maths, but then I fall into chemistry, mass spectrometry. So you can imagine that maths and physics at one end and mass spectrometry and chemistry almost at the opposite end. And when I was doing this, started with this astrobiology, then I got to know that astrobiology is the only field, in my point of view, which is multidisciplinary in its content and interdisciplinary in its context. That means that you can embed any of the subject into astrobiology. But whenever you want to execute any of the project related to astrobiology, you need chemist, you need biologist, you need planetary scientist, you need astrophysicist, you need engineer, you need psychiatrist, you need historian, you need philosopher, because astrobiology is very well connected with the society. So that was the motivation that bring me here, that it's not too boring subject, but too excited subject to work with it. So that is how actually it excited me, and I am here now today.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Priya?
Well, my astrobiology journey began in the year that I was born, and my parents took me out into the front yard in India, having BBC radio on, and I was supposedly held up to watch the moon landing. So I was already connected and looking upwards from the, pretty much the month or so after I was born. And recently, just a few days ago, India landed on the South Pole, or close to the South Pole of the moon, and that was the first time that was happening. So now both my ancestor groups are happy because we've done the thing. We've landed on the moon. Meanwhile, I took a strange journey. I was in Europe, where you go straight from high school into your professional school. So in my case, it was supposed to be medicine, because that's what I was supposed to do. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I decided ick factor was too high. I did not want to be working with all the gross stuff that medicine involves. Pardon me for saying that. I'll tell you why, that karma comes back and gets you eventually. So I decided to change my field, and I looked for something that was non-pathogenic, and I found something that was absolutely divinely gorgeous. I love the background that Tess has, purple, pink, red. That's the color of the haloarchaea. The color attracted me. It was non-pathogenic, and we didn't know that much about it. It was an extremophile, grows in extremely high salt. The laboratory sequenced the first genome of haloarchaea in the year 2000, made the cover of the PNAS. It was a very, very exciting time. I ended up, however, getting my degrees and then going on and teaching. I taught high school and college. I loved that. But then we moved to Maryland, and I was raising kids. And eventually my husband said, well, why don't you come back to the lab? So then I got back in the lab. And by that time, our lab had switched efforts into looking more on the astrobiology angle, because the genome showed us a lot of very interesting factors, and the physiology of our organism showed us a lot of different factors that would have astrobiological implications. And in fact, in 2000, when the genome was sequenced, my husband said that it would allow us to potentially develop vaccines, produce useful proteins and antibiotics, and do space research, contribute to understanding how life arose on Earth. This is a direct quote from him. And you can see 23 years later, it still has held up. We have developed vaccines with our microbe. We have used it for producing proteins. And now the purple membrane of this organism is being used as a biosignature for life on extrasolar planets or exoplanets, as well as other planets. So, I kind of, and the funny thing about it was we arrived here at the Center of Marine Biotechnology is what it used to be called. It got reorganized. Our laboratory is now part of the medical school at the University of Maryland, which is hilarious because I told you I left medical school because I didn't want to be in medical school, but karma has a way of roping you back in. So we're back there, but I'm still working on a non-pathogen. So I absolutely love working on this microbe and sharing what we do with it. So here I am doing education, outreach, and astrobiology.
Thank you. That's a really inspiring and kind of funny circular story. Skylar?
I guess I'm kind of have a non-typical way of kind of getting into astrobiology. I didn't really care about space. I had no interest in planetary science. I have a geology background, so I really liked studying the Earth, and I really liked rocks. And so I got a degree in geology, and in my undergrad, I did a little bit of research with Don Sumner and Marianne Michon, who are Mars scientists. And I was doing some Mars research with Curiosity and kind of fell into that. And so then went to grad school for doing Mars geophysics, and then ended up going to Antarctica, doing some microbial ecology type of remote sensing work in Antarctica, and then wanted to keep that as part of my dissertation. And since then I've really kind of dove in and explored how we could apply what we were doing in Antarctica to other planets and to astrobiology. And so I kind of fell into it, and I really enjoyed this field. I'm really passionate about it, and kind of Nazir was saying earlier, that it's very interdisciplinary, and I've found that as a result, because a lot of people are coming in with all these different backgrounds and learning a lot, it also tends to be a little bit more inclusive of a STEM field in comparison to other fields of science that I've been in. So I've really appreciated that aspect as well. And people just seem really eager to collaborate and be supportive of each other and each other's research. And so it's another reason why I've really enjoyed being in this field and doing astrobiology research. And it is so wide of a field. You can do a lot of different things with it and come at it from a lot of different directions. So
can I just ask you a quick question, Skylar? Did you happen to find my microbe out there? Halorubrum lacus profundi from Deep Lake. It's a bright red one. It's a fluorescent red one. Did you
I was actually
that?
looking at cyanobacteria. So no. I was looking at these microbial mats, which are predominantly cyanobacteria. Yeah, I think I know which microbes you're talking about, but I did not see them. Yeah.
You didn't. I was just wondering if you saw them, because our other microbes are from South San Francisco Bay, and when you fly over that, you can actually see the colors because they float. That's the NRC1 strain. The HLA, the Lacus profundi one, so Halorubrum, halo meaning solid, rubrum meaning red, lacus meaning lake, and profundi deep. So that one came out of the muck at the bottom of the lake, so probably harder to see. But yeah, so I always wonder if anybody meets them out in the real wild. We actually sent those up into the stratosphere, and they survived the stratosphere really well. So actually, compared to the other one, a little bit better because they like the cold. But they're cool, literally Antarctic microbes. But we should talk later.
And Veronica?
Yeah, so as Tess introduced me, I am still in high school, so you might wonder what am I actually doing here. I managed to get into astrobiology through quite a long path. Since I was born in the same city as the Nikolai Copernicus was born, in Toruń in Poland, I thought, yeah, that was kind of we always learned about this figure. I was going to a planetarium with my parents. I could watch the same show for 5 times and still not be bored with it. So I'm saying that space was always back there. However, due to something that I got signed up as a kid, something called Kids University in Toruń, I really got into laboratory sciences, and I'm talking about chemistry, biology, everything. That also really got me into biochemistry because it's quite an interesting life science. It kind of applies chemistry to biology. We do not focus only on the biology side. So as I started exploring biochemistry, I read an article about nucleic acids, and then it said that uracil, one of the bases, has an extraterrestrial origin. And I was completely shocked that it's a thing. It's something that builds our RNA, our genetic material. I actually found that there's a whole field about it. There's astrobiology. And yes, that was my way to make it to this field, as well as I got the opportunity to join Polish Astrobiology Society, as well as after I spent some time in here, I co-founded an Astro Youth Society that I would encourage people to kind of also discover astrobiology in the way I did, but also discover all of the spectrum that actually you can engage in astrobiology, being a scientist, a lawyer, a philosopher, from every side, from every way. We want to also spread the idea about the space sciences in general. So yeah, that's my story.
Very cool. So as you all can see, we have 4 people coming from really very disparate backgrounds, which makes it really exciting. And that's like really a theme of astrobiology, is that we have all these different people from different backgrounds coming together, which I agree with the panelists is one of the best parts of the field. So we're here to talk about kind of like some next steps that might be possible after this course. And so I'd like to ask each of the panelists about their respective organizations or groups. So each of you is affiliated with an organization or group, whether you helped co-found it, or you've been involved as a scientist, or you came together with a group to make it. So I'd like to ask you, what made you decide to build and contribute it? And then what was the process of building it? So let's start with Priya.
Well, I will skip the university academic stuff and move forward to where I'm at right now. So I joined BMSIS or BMSIS or Blue Marble Space Institute of Science, which is a US-based community or institute, a few years ago, because I loved their mission. And their mission statement was building a sustainable future and nurturing scientific interest among the public with a mission to explore life as a universal phenomenon and empower the next generation of scientists. Sounds pretty much like what we're doing right here, right? So I thought it was a perfect fit. And it's basically a community of open-minded folks from varying backgrounds. We have people who are artists, and we have people who are sending rockets up into space, and people who are planning missions, everything in between. There's a lot of engagement with young folks or the next generation, as they promised, and that's through the Young Scientist Program and the Visiting Scholars Program. During COVID is pretty much the time when I was really getting more active in it. It became an issue of bringing people into the laboratory, so we switched a lot of our work on to online, and that actually broadened the range of students who we could interact with, and folks we could interact with, because we could do all of these Zoom calls and whatnot. And we developed a really nice routine of what we did with students, and they came out and have published articles through this program. I think that there are things that I saw things that I felt like could be improved or could be changed, because that's just the way I am. I'm just lived long enough and feel like I'm opinionated enough that I voice my opinion. And they were very welcoming to that, and they were very nice and allowed me to get involved with many of the different projects. And so now I have several different components of BMSIS that I'm involved with and I contribute to. Yeah, so that's how I ended up there. It's a very nice institute, and I think maybe some of the panelists might be interested in joining.
Thank you. Yeah, and we would also we want to share with the participants the Young Scientist Program, as that is open to all international students. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that will be a really good opportunity for you guys to continue on in astrobiology research after this.
I can put a link into the chat.
That would be great. Thank you. Skylar?
Basically, Stromatolites kind of formed from AbGradCon 2021. So there was a group of us that met at this conference, which is an astrobiology conference specifically for graduate students and other early career scientists. A lot of us also, so it's an international conference as well, and a lot of us were kind of connecting across kind of being the only ones doing astrobiology at our institutions, and kind of feeling like we weren't necessarily getting a whole lot of conversations that are really helpful for us in our research. And so actually Michaela Dobson at University of Auckland kind of proposed the idea of us kind of getting together and starting our own group that's focused on early career researchers in astrobiology and kind of helping connect those who are especially kind of alone in doing their research and kind of isolated and aren't necessarily in big programs. We kind of just formed from talking to each other and kind of collaborating, and now the group is still an international collaborative research group. There's a small group of us that are currently working on a geobiology perspectives paper, and so we kind of are, this kind of how we are continuing to collaborate and work together is kind of have, but we started out doing these journal clubs, and then it turned into like, let's write a perspectives paper about this because this is really important. So it's really cool. And yeah, the entire purpose is just basically to support those who are early career researchers who are interested in astrobiology or who are doing astrobiology and may not have like the resources at their own institution or where they are.
That's very cool. I think being at JPL, I like am a bit spoiled, so I don't like, well, there's plenty of us around, but I think it's really great that you guys can connect and have people, especially like from like Bonnie, I think is a member as well. And she was speaking for our program a few weeks ago. So I think that it must be really valuable. Veronica?
So today I'm speaking on behalf of two organizations, one when I'm a member and one and I actually co-founded it. The Polish Astrobiology Society started off in pandemics of COVID-19. They basically met up as a group that wanted to talk about science fiction. But it turned out that actually everybody was doing something associated with different disciplines of science. So they decided to create a society that would contribute to astrobiology in general, so that they could not only discuss science fiction, but especially their work, to promote their work as well, but to have something about astrobiology in Poland, because the Polish Astrobiology Society was founded in 2020. It's pretty a fresh thing in Poland in general. Yeah, and we are still a developing organization, but we develop quite rapidly. We have members from almost all levels of education, meaning high schoolers, university students, but also active scientists. So talking about another organization, so Astro Youth, that was an idea that came up from me and from another member, that we were kind of in this group of the youngest members, and we still wanted to get an idea what can we do in astrobiology exactly. So we had these people who started the bachelor degrees. We had me, I was the first high schooler to join the Polish Astrobiology Society. So we just wanted to gather, network, and kind of say what opportunities do we have. So it started off like this. It started off from astrobiology, but actually now it's a small project, but it's a thriving organization of people who do particularly everything in science and beyond that contributes to space research. And we just create a place for everybody to just get associated with an idea that you do not have to be an astronaut or an engineer only to get involved in space sciences. You can be a biologist, even. You can be a lawyer, you can be a ethicist, you can be everyone. And we just want to tell this to Polish youth, and we aim to tell this to literally everyone out there.
That's so cool. You're doing this as a high schooler. I didn't even know the first thing about astrobio in high school. So good for you. Like, that's great. Nozer?
Yes, so exciting stories already. In Astrobiology Network of Pakistan case, as you introduced that, I founded it in 2017. And you can just imagine that the word astrobiology was unknown largely in 2017 in Pakistan. So when I talk about that, no one believed that, okay, this subject is existing and the research is happening in this area. So this was quite some motivation already to go back to Pakistan and to introduce this exciting subject. But let me say that astrobiology as a subject, as a field of research, is such a blessing that it has to have a connection with the society, and very close connection with the society. For example, I teach a master's level course here at the university, and the name is Astrobiology and its Feedback in Societies. So where comes not only the hardcore science, but as well as film, theater, and theology and so many things together. So I thought that this is a nice way of involving the students in Pakistan, not only through the outreach activities, but also I thought that this is the field where we can bridge the professionals with the common people in the country. And there is a lot of scope already in the country, and that actually drive me through. And I was quite happy at that time when I founded it, because many of my colleagues from Germany, from US, they actually joined hands. And one of the name who was with us and who is still with us is the David Deemer and Bruce Demer. So so they used to give us advices that how can we take such a science. And now we are moving ahead. And one of the things that we think that people are really like with our network is that we are promoting the harsh environmental sites in Pakistan, like in glaciers and in hot mud volcanoes, where actually we can bring in the tourism in terms of scientific tourism, that the scientists should visit to those sites, and then there should be a kind of collaborations with the students particularly. And the blue marble is one of the example here Priya has shared, that, and two of the Astrobiology Network hardcore members, they then joined actually Blue Marble. And I must say that it's a nice and excellent platform, and every student should join it. It's a lot of opportunity, a lot of learning through that platform. So this is my take on that is why I actually go back to the network and contribute there.
That's very cool. Yeah, I think it's amazing that you were able to bring that back to your country. I'd really like to visit there one day. So maybe I'll be one of those scientific tourists, hopefully. I'll have to see. So I would like to ask you all about the short and or long-term goals that you have for your organization, kind of looking forward. What's like your few months to 1 year plan and your 5 and 10 year plan? So let's start with Skylar.
We're not like leader led. We are very much more like community kind of focused. So people just kind of lead whenever they want to. And so we haven't necessarily like kind of discussed like more long-term goals, but or I guess in the short term, one goal for a few of us is to just get this paper done because we've been working on it for so long. In terms of long-term goals, like at least for me personally, it would be awesome to kind of grow and make stromatolites a little bit more active, because it is more like community-led. It's kind of on individuals to kind of just start things. And so so I have been wanting to do a variety of different like social events and all these other things. So it would be great for me to just get a little bit more involved. That is kind of my personal long-term goal. And also just kind of grow the group a little bit and provide some more concrete support besides, I guess, kind of having a small group of us kind of work on these other collaborative projects, which are really great. I mean, it's wonderful to be able to work with other people on papers and projects. And actually through the group, like there are a couple of people who are now like helping me with my research and have helped me with my research and are now co-authors on research papers for my dissertation. So I'm kind of growing that support and continuing to like build on that, I think is kind of my personal long-term goal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you're doing a great job. So I found out about stromatolites at the astrobiology conference last year. And I thought, wow, how cool is that? So then this year when I was doing this, I was like, I want someone from stromatolites to come. So I think it's definitely a great start. Veronica?
So for sure, for Polish Astrobiology Society, a short-term goal is our Life and Space conference, which you all guys are invited to. It's last conference, LAS. It's really open to everybody. We really care about accessibility of astrobiology to completely everyone in the world, and especially in Poland, since we want to popularize this field of science in our country. The entry fee is only $9, so you're pretty encouraged to join. For our long-term goals, I would say that we want to keep publishing, keep reaching out to people about astrobiology, but also we have some aims that we want to introduce astrobiology as a subject in universities in Poland. We are creating a course online that students or just curious people can complete and learn more about astrobiology. We also aim to have more field trips in educational institutions to astrobiology significant places and institutes, just to get an idea of what is going on in astrobiology in practice. Also create exhibitions in museums and educational centers. Also, we want to create a Polish astrobiology roadmap, as well as you know, lastly, another Polish astronaut got to work in International Space Station. So we want to get to collaborate with him, also to collaborate with him in terms of long-term research. And we just want to have fun doing research and talking about astrobiology in Polish Astrobiology Society. Talking about AstroYouth, our goals are basically to be more international. We want to reach out more of the region of, let's say, Central Eastern Europe, when still this topic might be interesting for people, especially young people. We want to be inclusive for young people, especially because there are lots of opportunities for undergrad and grad students, but there are not really many opportunities for high schoolers. So one, we created one, AstroYouth, and two, we want to include completely everybody, because high schoolers are also included in this group of young people who are the future of astrobiology, future scientists that will contribute to the global discoveries in astrobiology. So that's what we want to do.
Great. That's lots of amazing goals. Is there?
Yes, well, the short-term goal that Astrobiology Network of Pakistan and I and other colleagues are aiming for, the students in Pakistan, school students and university students should get involved to the international communities. And I am sitting here in Germany, having also connection at NASA and States. So trying to connect them through different projects, not only hardcore science, but also the associated fields like film, theater, and other related fields. So this is what we are doing. Just as an example, that one of the students who has developed an animation on very complex science of how the extraterrestrial ocean material from the depth of the ocean, from Enceladus depth, come through the plume. And that animation he has made, and now this animation was published on our university website. Also, this is enhanced to NASA scientists also. Morgan Cable has that. And it is such kind of activities on short-term basis we are aiming for. The second short-term goal is that we would like to organize an online conference on astrobiology. That would be the first conference that will be hosted inside Pakistan, and we would like to have international communities. These are the short-term, and as a long-term plan, we are I'm gathering 3 major universities in Pakistan and their scientists to make a first formal laboratory of astrobiology in one of the center. This is what we are aiming for, and we are in the planning phase to write a proposal, and then we should propose it. So this is the long term, and if we are succeed in getting this laboratory, then this is a major step for Pakistan and Astrobiology Network of Pakistan.
That's amazing. Good luck. I hope you're able to get the funding. Priya?
On the topic of funding, YSP and VSP is fully done from the hearts of the scientists and the participants. There's no funding. So I would love to see some funding and some support for educational efforts, because as Veronica pointed out, if we don't engage with the next generation, which is part of Beyonce's mission, there is not going to be another group coming in. I was involved as one of the American Society of Microbiology's K-12 committee many years ago, and the mission was to bring in the next generation scientists. They changed their efforts and changed their mission, so I walked out because I'm just a very opinionated person. And I said, look, if we're not doing this for the next generation, I don't want to be part of it. I have a lot of things to do. I have plants to water, I have bread to bake. You know, there are important things to do in life. So that's just the kind of person I am. So I would love to see funding in there. That sounds greedy, but it's true. We're all doing these efforts. Skylar, you're talking yours is free. Veronica, you're doing this for free. Some of us don't have, other sources of income. And it would be really nice to see some support. I know in Europe, there's a lot more support for faculty. In America, every person has to fight for grants. When we started out the lab many decades ago, 1 in 3 grants was funded. Now it's 1 in 10 or 1 in 20. So you can imagine how much effort researchers put into trying to get funding. So it's fun, Veronica, to do the science. I absolutely agree with you. I'm 100% with you. I've never grown up. I believe in Pippi Longstocking's motto, never grow up, because you want to keep that curiosity. But at the same time, we have to be able to feed ourselves. And I know that the world as a whole is having problems feeding itself. So I would love to see that the organization becomes more environmentally engaged. It's got ecology as part of the mission. But I think we all need to be aware of the climate consequences of everything we do, whether it's sending rockets up that blow up on the, in Florida or something else. I mean, we need to be careful of what we're doing and treading on this planet. So I would love to see that the organization grows more in that direction. I am not in charge of the organization, but if I had a plan, those would be the 2 most important things to move forward on.
Definitely really good ones to be thinking about. So we will have, I think, one more question that the team came up with, and then we'll switch to some student questions. So the last question we want to ask our panelists from our list of questions is, do you have any advice for participants who are inspired to set up their own similar organization or group within their communities? Let's start with Veronica.
Okay, so the first advice that comes to my mind is do it immediately. Just do it. Don't wait for anybody's permission. Don't wait around for anybody to understand you completely in every detail. Just do it. Just do it, and start with a small group that will be really, really like geeks, really, really interested in astrobiology and related fields, and just have this free atmosphere, let's say, kind of nice atmosphere when you can actually, as we do in Polish Astrobiology Society, no matter that somebody has 2 PhD titles, I can still call him by the name, and it's amazing, and we can just talk about astrobiology with no barriers regarding our age, experience, or let's say degree to which we are engaged in astrobiology, just to share the passion. Passion is everything. I would say also create a good brand. Your website should be everything that should encourage people and to collect more people to your organization, to share fun facts, to actually have your organization expanding. And I would say that's the good key to start, and then just continue spreading astrobiology all over the world or the region that you're interested in, your target population.
Very inspiring. I can see why you have started a foundation as a high schooler now, given your attitude. That's great. Is there?
Well, in my suggestion, if I would like to give to anyone who would like to start it, the first thing, ask yourself what you want to do. Means that in my mind, when I founded this network in Pakistan, my plan was that I should bring the really hardcore science of astrobiology in Pakistan and connect the universities to the international groups and research. So that was the main goal. But this goal cannot be achieved without saying any word. So we started the outreach activities. We started to bring artists with us. We started small competitions in schools, and we inspire the younger generations, girls and schools and universities. And this is how we started. And I think this is the first of the foremost thing in my point of view, that where you would like to lead your organization and the group. This is one thing. And the second thing which I experienced during this whole journey, that I have a great passion for astrobiology. As I said earlier, that I always got goosebumps when I talk about astrobiology because I'm too excited for this subject. This passion has to be transferred to your team. This is you cannot do all things by yourself. So think about your team who are passionate, equally passionate, or more or less. similar kind of passion, and then think about that whether you will remain with astrobiology network actively or passively, but this network should go on. So such kind of thoughts one should have before starting such kind of organization. So this is my humble suggestion to anyone who would like to start in this area.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Definitely valuable to have a team around you to help with the workload. Priya?
Well, I'll go back to my environmentalist background, which, as you probably have figured out, I do have. Reduce, reuse, recycle. So there are already organizations around, and Veronica did exactly the right thing, joining an organization that already existed. If you had a need, make another one. But first, there are organizations there. Help those get strong. The more small, tiny organizations you have, the more competition there is, the harder it is to move forward and engage. I like that you're joining your two organizations, keeping them separate, but also having overlapping Venn diagrams. So that's the reduce one. Reuse. There's a lot of resources out there. Ask people, if you want to definitely do your own organization, go and ask people for help. They can oftentimes mentor you and help you grow. I'm sure that that several of your organizations have done that as well. And then recycle. So try and go ahead and take that stuff that's already existed, maybe see if you can revitalize something that had started once before, and maybe you'll get somebody with more energy if you can help them grow it. I think, yes, you can make a new organization, but frankly, obviously, I made the choice of joining an organization that already existed. Obviously, I want to change it to be the way I want it to be. So will I stay there forever? Will this be my home forever? I don't know. I went to 9 different schools growing up. I lived on multiple continents. I speak 5 languages. So obviously, I never really committed to anything except my husband, I guess. But I just, I really believe that you can grow, you can be in one place, grow as far as you can grow, and then maybe you have to move out and make your own satellite organization or your own organization that may even become bigger than the one that already existed. But look around and see whether you can join people who are already there. If there isn't an organization, then yeah, definitely. But I think there's strength in numbers and strength in knowledge. And don't hesitate to ask folks who've been around for a long time, for pointers along the way. It's wonderful to have the mix, as I put into the chat. Our lab does not believe in educational elitism. Like, just because somebody comes from somewhere or has that particular degree doesn't mean that a fresh mind and a fresh idea may not improve the situation. So I think let's just be cautious, conserve, join forces, I guess would be my mixed message here.
That was really beautifully put. Good things to think about for sure. Skylar?
Yeah, I really have much more to add, because I think everybody's kind of touched on what I was going to say, which is build your experiences with other people, get connected with organizations that exist in general. And if you don't have experience organizing community groups, then get that experience by joining other groups first, because that knowledge is really important when you're going to start something new that is going to fill a need that is not already being met. So and I think when you're joining groups and getting connected with folks, like, you kind of learn, like, oh, this exists, this does not exist, this would be helpful, and stuff like that. So, and sometimes I think it just kind of happens naturally. You may just kind of get involved with your own community and everybody's kind of on the same page, and you're like, okay, this does not exist, so then you just kind of start something. But definitely rely on other people and try to build community first, and then kind of grow from there. So
thank you. Those are all such good pieces of advice. So I hope you guys have all thought about this a bit and maybe how you could go forward with astrobiology outreach from there. So we will now switch to questions in the Discord. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will ask them. We're starting with Agatha, and she is asking, what is the best example of interdisciplinary collaboration for astrobiology that you've observed or taken part in? So we'll start with Nozair.
Yes, for example, this is a very good question. For example, just now, one of the papers that we were working on accepted in Astrobiology Journal. And who are the people who are the co-authors? Couple of were hardcore scientists who were working with ocean science, and they were planetary scientists. And some were experimentalists, but some were from theology and some were from philosophy, because we were addressing the question that how to define biosignature. the definition of biosignature is so much into every field of science that sometime it mislead the definition. And that was the excellent collaboration that I was onto that. And the second collaboration that we have here in Germany, in Berlin actually, Einstein Circle. And there actually we are addressing that how the news of finding life somewhere will affect the societies. And now there are scientists and there are theologians and there are historians. We bi-monthly, we sit down and then we start discussing it and writing the notes and moving towards another paper. So I found that this is an excellent blend of science and humanities and arts together. And this is the beauty of astrobiology.
That's really cool. I'll have to keep it. Did you say it's published or submitted?
It's in print now, but it's not online yet. I think in a few weeks' time, but I would let you know.
Please do. I'm excited to read it. Priya?
So the coolest thing would be that microbes, which are microbes, you can see from space, from the space station. In fact, if you look at the Great Salt Lake, halfway between, there's a causeway that separates out the two. So they're really tiny, and yet you can see them from space. So that was cool going into astrobiology. But as a early scientist, I was looking at nanoparticles that they have that allow these cells to float, which is cool, right, in itself. It's neat. They do these things, and that's a microbial thing. But we were able to collaborate with scientists all over the world to develop vaccines using these particular nanoparticles, because the microbes are non-pathogenic, and we use them for teaching and so on. But we're able to use those nanoparticles for malaria, for salmonella, and other diseases that are probably going to be on the rise in all over the world with global warming. And so they're going to be more of an issue. So we're going to need to produce more vaccines. And so collaborating with people who are completely in a different field, working in a completely, they are obsessively salmonella people, and they look at, the world through salmonella glasses. I look at them through pink, purple glasses of the Haloarchaea. But to find where those two worlds intercepted, and to have to, combine working with something that will die, our microbes, about the only thing that'll really kill them is water, or even seawater is too dilute. Their microbes will die in the high salt. So when you're working with people with different types of proteins, just working that kind of collaborative world. I just love it when things are not really that easy to combine. My daughter made me a sign many years ago, and that is kind of my motto. So I figure I would share that. Whenever there's a project that somebody comes up with, or we had a call in from Bolivia, somebody said, well, we have never isolated an archaeon from Bolivia. Can you find one? And I was like, give me some salt and we'll do it. And we did it. So I love that challenge of something that has not happened before, somebody who's actually never done any biology, and just meeting up with them and then having a conversation. And my challenge to most people is, I work on Haloarchaea, tell me something and I'll tell you how Haloarchaea connects. So that's the fun part about doing what I'm doing.
Super cool. Skylar?
Yeah, I think pretty much like every circle I've been in has been hugely interdisciplinary. I kind of helped organize this Arizona Astrobiology Symposium, and which is mostly composed of undergrads, grad students, and other early career folks interested in wanting to do astrobiology. And there's the breadth of like scope for that symposium is so wide. You have people doing like exoplanet stuff, you have people doing microbiology, you have people doing geobiology, like there's just like kind of a lot. And so that's been kind of neat to be involved with. Also, my research is very kind of interdisciplinary and all over the place. So I've had opportunities to kind of join workshops, and there was this Ocean Worlds field assessment workshop that I was a part of back in October of last year. I had not realized that the field of oceanography is inherently interdisciplinary. It's quite like wild, just like how much knowledge people who are trained in oceanography know about chemistry, physics, biology, geology, like all of the things. And so everybody came in with different expertise with regards to how they were approaching detecting life on ocean worlds, but overall people knew a lot about a lot of different things as well. And so it was really cool to see just how wide of a background everybody was bringing to the table.
That's really cool. Yeah, I agree that you can definitely, even in our own research experiences, have some of these really interesting experiences. So Veronica, I know you maybe have less experience than some of the other panelists, but we'd love to hear your insight.
Yeah, but actually I feel like not only astrobiology, but the whole science right now, research teams are built on the idea of interdisciplinary approach nowadays. I mean, we love specialists and we admire a good specialist in some field of science or field of anything. However, sometimes the specialists might take an aerial shot on this lab or whenever are they sitting and just say, did I include every perspective? Did I include every aspect of my discovery? For example, as Priya said, we have to include if that's good for our planet, if it doesn't contribute to climate change, if it is good for humankind even. So that's what I admire about astrobiology, that everybody can share their perspective, we can have a wholesome picture of the discoveries made and the solutions invented. And also it deepens our understanding about every astrobiological concept that we have, that we know and we will know already. So that's what I admire about this.
There's a question from Sitham, who is coming from Sri Lanka, and says that human resources are a big problem here. Just starting an astronomy club in school was itself a big challenge. Even school teachers are not trained for these subjects, and so far it has been a problem to get things going. I've tried sharing videos, books with the community, but since many do not have much proficiency in English, it hasn't been very effective. I'd like to know what advice you have for Sitham, as well as similar people, to bring this subject closer.
I think you need to just reach out. Go down the list of things that you're interested in. Look at the authors of the books and the articles you're trying to share. See if any of those people are willing to do, say, a Zoom call with the students and engage with them. See if there are people who speak whatever language you think would be more accommodating for them. Because just because English right now is the big D whoop-de-doo language, you know, it used to be Latin once upon a time. And even before that, there were other languages. And depending upon where you are in the world, one thing will work and the other one won't. Believe me. I had British and American English, and each school I went to traveling, they wanted English or American English. I got my spelling so mixed up, I don't even know how to spell anything anymore. So I think that the main thing is you want to engage people where they are and how they are connected to what they're doing. So, and then the other thing is resources. So for example, if you want to get telescopes. So I know that there is somebody at BMSIS who is actually providing telescopes to students in various parts of the planet. So engage with people who know what they're doing, and they can oftentimes give you help. So I would say look people up, just put in the keywords, and you'd be surprised how engaging and how open I think a lot of scientists are to helping out. And maybe you can get a translator somewhere along the way to translate if language is an issue.
Anyone else? I don't know who maybe has an insight on this.
Oh, sorry.
Please go ahead.
I was just gonna say one really quick thing. Making astrobiology, making anything accessible requires a lot of work. And so if the resources aren't there, just be mindful that there's a lot that is going to have to go into like building it from the ground up with the lack of resources. And meeting people where they are is exactly what you should be doing too, and just kind of start small. But it sounds like building curricula about astrobiology from a more high level perspective would also be kind of helpful in that situation if people are like not necessarily familiar with concepts and whatnot. So it is going to require a little bit more work to like build that foundation for creating those curricula and everything. And especially if you're doing it in another language, which you absolutely should be doing and not necessarily be doing everything in English. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love your point, Tyler. I think that's also some like work done. Yeah, it's really hard to do so, as you said, Skylar. The case is that also I think the key is inclusivity. So like be inclusive pretty much. So not only in terms of language, as I would like to highlight about the hypothetical situation. You are a high school student like me and you want to engage, but you are being told, oh, okay, let us just wait 3 years more and we will start thinking if we can get to engage in here. So actually, like, just would say you're on good way to actually achieve something great.
Thank you. And Nazair?
Yes, I think this is the perfect alien example that she just said, that the language issue where you or they don't understand or they don't express. I give you one example that in one of the module that I teach here, to the master's student even, design your own alien on the paper. So means that you don't need much or many more resources. You can only do with pen and paper, and only very small amount of words that they could understand, and let them know that please think about your alien and design it, whatever the drawing they can make. Similarly, I ask my students that dream your alien, that if you are sleeping, and what kind of alien you can conceive, and if you are on other world. So some hands-on activity can be done, I believe. The second thing is that astrobiology is a small community, but in that small community, there is a huge amount of work that is happening. There are a lot of examples that people are doing, and I'm sure that if she can just look around, as Priya also mentioned, that she can outreach to some people. Veronica said that it should be inclusive effort, and I'm sure that people can join hands.
All right, so we are past the top of the hour, so we will be finishing there, but I'd like to thank all of our panelists for sharing your stories and your experiences with us today. I learned a lot, and I hope that all the students did as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we will end there, and we will see you all next week for semifinals. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Good luck, guys.
Bye.
Bye.